So, I'm done, and this will be my last video for this set. Therefore, Exterior will give you guys the knowledge to climb your rank goals before the end of the season. This playstyle that I'm going to teach you is a high tempo, meaning win streak early and save lots of money with lots of HP. After you're done watching this video, you will have a 5 win streak like this, and this, and this. Before you say, I don't know how the lower rank lobbies are, I have an account that I was going to do unranked masters with before I quit that is currently plat 3 in 23 games. Most of you might say it's because I abuse S tier comps in these lobbies, but funny enough, this account is my multi-striker only account, and that comp is not even good at all. With that out of the way, here's my set 12 rank guide. This is going to be my thought process every time I start up a game, which is, what is my first item slams? Meaning that an item that I could just slam off the beginning and win streak with. And these are the most common items that I would build because they're the strongest ones to use in the current meta, which would be like Spirit Surgeon, Blue Buff, Last Whisper, Rage Blade, Bloodthirster, tank items, or even utility items such as AD util, like Armor Pen items, or AP util, like Magic Shred items, or even anti-heal items because anti-heal is very strong later in the game because there's a lot of healing late game. And this is the concept of mostly 4 and 5 cost units. So for 3 costs and lower, you guys already know how to build those items, so it's a different playstyle. This is more for like templing the level 8. And Spirit Surgeon is really good on Varus, but Spirit Surgeon with, extra AP items with any rod components is good for the rest of these units. Not really Varus. Varus is only good with Spirit Surgeon because he's an AD unit, so you want 80 items with Spirit Surgeon on him. And then if you slam a blue buff, the issue is you're kind of limited on what you can play. It'll be like Karma or Gwen or even Veigar. So it's not much units you can play with blue buff. So when you do slam blue buff, that means you're committed to play those units. If you slam a Last Whisper, same idea as blue buff. You're committed to play either Jinx, Kog'Maw, or even like Varus and Smolder. And if for Rage Blade, you're committed to playing Callista, Smolder, and same thing with Jinx. And you have like extra bow items after that. Or even like double Rage Blade is really powerful too on these units. And then when I summon a Bloodthirster, most of the time you always want a Sterak's as well, because Sterak's and Bloodthirster is a very good combination in this current set. The idea when you slam Bloodthirster is you want to play around either Olaf, Fiora, Briar, or Camille, because they're frontline melees that need that Bloodthirster to stay alive, and that's their actual core items for their best in slot. And then our tank units is going to be Nasus, Rakan, Tahm Kench, and Taric for 4 cost units. There's a bunch of other tanks too, but this is just for show for 4 cost units. And then AD utility, like I said earlier, is armor pen items such as Last Whisper, Even Shroud. Always remember, for utility items, and even anti-heal items, only pick one from these categories. If you build 2 of them, they're kinda useless. To take note, Static Shiv is way better than having Onyx Spark because Static Shiv hits like 6 units, while Onyx Spark only hits a couple units in the front line. And another note too with the anti-heal section, red buff is really universal. Almost every unit that you see here can use it. And then Sunfire is only good for a first item slam just to win streak. It's not really good later in the game. It's something you just want to slam at the beginning, so you can just win streak early. For our item opener, meaning our components, this is what leads me into the direction to play AD or AP. If we have a rod, we can build a lot of AP items as you see here. But if you want to play AD with the rod, it'll most likely be only a Rage Blade, since there's no other good AD items. Another good item you can also build if you do want to play AD is you can build a tank item with it instead as well, which is having a Crown Guard as your frontline item, because Crown Guards are actually really good for almost every tank in the game, since most of the tanks in this game are AP units. And always remember, Gunblade as a first item slam is a no-go. Gunblade just doesn't do anything for you since it's really weak in the early game and probably overall in the late game too. Most of the time I would never slam this item unless I have to. And then for our swords, for melee, Bloodthirster and Sterak's Gauge is really powerful. It's like probably the strongest combinations you can make if you can build these 2 together. And then for our AD, such as like backline, it would be IE or Deathblade for like Varus or something like that. And if you want to build an AP item out of sword, the only good one would be Spirit Surgeon. Giant Slayer is a no-go for a first item slam, but it is powerful for like a third or even sometimes a second item. But if you're gonna build your first item, don't do it because it literally doesn't do anything in the early game since most units don't have a lot of HP in the early game. And if I have a glove, which most of the time a lot of people get and don't even use them, if you have like really strong melee unit at the beginning, you can make a QSS or even a Hodge or even a Thieves Gloves. Thieves Gloves is actually really powerful to slam at the beginning as well if you want to like win streak early. If you want to make AP items, it'll be Jewel Gauntlet. AD items, i.e. Last Whisper. If you want to make a tank item, it'll be a steadfast heart. And this item is actually really powerful too for a tank item. And the concept here would be like the best like 4 items you can like build. It'll be like blue buff, you can put it on these units. And to take note here, Twitch is very good with blue buff because his mana pool will be very tiny. Even though it's better for AP units, you know, like Ziggs, Zoe, and Ari, it still works on Twitch as well if you have to put it on him. For Spirit Soulgen, the best one to take note here would be Namzi. Namzi is a very powerful unit with Spirit Soulgen, even though she's an AD unit, not an AP unit. And it's also really good as well on Kog'Maw and Tristana, even though they're AD units, it's still really good on them too. But that's if you want to build for like Var's direction, because Var's works well with Spirit Soldier, i.e. Last Whisper. So these could be your item holders for Vars. Against whose Rage Blade is good for all of these units, and the main one to take note is Warg, even though he's a frontline unit, is very powerful on him because the more he attacks, the more lifesteal he can get back. Jace is also good with backline items, so if you want to play him as like an AD carry, you can do that. So you can put the backline items on Jace as well. For our Bloodthirster, the one to take note here would be like Poppy, even though she's a tank unit, is also really good on her because she does lots of damage. Same with Shyvana, she also does lots of damage. So Bloodthirster is really good for all of these units. I would say Warg is not too good. If you're playing for like Warg carry, don't put Bloodthirster on him. But if you want to use him as an item holder, it's good for that. For our artifact items on the AD range direction, is like for like example Vars or Callista, Fish and Bones, Sniper's Focus, and Collector is good for this category. For our AD melee, it would be Infinity Force, That's Defiance. Silvermere is very powerful, like for like Hecarim for example, and units that can use it will be like Olaf or Fiora. Tank items, Suspicious Trend Cloak is also good for tank, same with melee AD melee units. And the most powerful ones you could choose for tank would be like Innervated Locket, Eternal Winter, or even Spirit. Spirit is kind of like an iffy one because there's a lot of anti-heal like in the games, but it's still a pretty decent item overall because it gives you a lot of magic resist and it gives you some health. For our AP items such as like Zonia's, Mana Zane, or even DFG is very good too. It's good for units such as like Karma and Rise, and the thing to note here with Blight and Jeweled is only good on Karma and Rise and Nora. It's only good for like those 3 specifics because it's meant for units that have a lot of dot damage, meaning damage over time, because the more ticks that they get hit by an ability power, the more magic resist they lose. So for example, like Karma is very good with Blight and Jewel. For utility items such as Horizon Focus, it only works on units that CC, so you want a unit that CCs multiple units, such as Nami and even Tahm Kench. It works really well with that. And then for like Gwen items, for the rest of like these or artifact items, is very good on Gwen. The Thieves Class is good on literally any frontline unit, but I would say it's better on Gwen if you don't have any others on her, just throw that on her. For our units, this is the openers I always play every game, like almost no matter what. This what allows you to win streak very hard, and it makes it to where you can utilize your items pretty well with them. Like for example, for an Eldritch opener, our core units would be Ashe, Elise, and Nyla. And the item openers you could choose for this comp would be a BF sword or even a bow. I'm not gonna explain literally everything here, but I will like say like the most important parts. Like for example, Portal is very flexible because we have all AD units and AP unit from AD units such as Jace and AP unit as Zoe. And the good thing about Jace is you can play him as like a frontline melee or even like a backline carry unit. So if you want to put in like for example Rageblade, Last Whisper, you can do that on Jace. Or if you want to put in Bloodthirster or Sterak's on Jace, you can do that too. He's a very flexible unit as a front or backline unit in the early game. And then we got our AP openers such as Honeymancy and Mages. And then we have another AD opener like Eldritch, which is the Hunter Shapeshifter opener. The thing to know about this is Namzi is very powerful with Shyvana because you get the Dragon trait, which is anti-heal. So therefore, you want to play Namzi as the main carry over Twitch, and you just fill it up with shapeshifters over time. If we're gonna do a fairy opener, is oddly specific. We have to start with a bow, Seraphine 2 as our early game item holder for Callista, or if somehow we manage to get Tristana, it's even better. Just throw that item on her, and she'll carry you throughout the game. Another good opener that people don't really use that I like to utilize would be Scholar Bastions. This is actually really good because if you have an RE2 early, she can just hold items for the AP unit and she'll just kill everything really easily. And then Bastion units are pretty easy to come by, so it's pretty easy to like hit like a Poppy 2 and then Lilia 2, and you just throw it out with Zoe and Ari as our DPS carries. And the thing about it is, the reason why it's strong is because you have Poppy and Zoe as a witchcraft. And then here are examples of like categories of what these units are. Like I said earlier, Jace can also be played as an AD range or an AD melee. So this is a really good point to like say. And this whole chart here is basically your main carries that you want to utilize the items for. The main thing to note for the tank one would be Blitzcrank is the best tank hands down because this unit is just super beefy. But you can utilize the other tanks for like items such as like Elise is very good as well. Or if you like 2-star Galio somehow, it's good it has a tank item holder as well. The best augments to choose for literally like almost any comp would be like any sort of thief gloves or item augment such as portable forge. You can never almost go wrong with any Ornn item for like any comp. And speaking of can never go wrong, big grab bag is very powerful because you get 3 components that you can use to make any item you want. Avenge the Fallen is a very good stat augment, meaning that it's a good augment to give you power for your board. This works for almost every comp because you're always going to play more than like 7 or 8 units later in the game. So it can give the rest of your units, such as your carries, even more stats. And speaking of stats, Combat Bandages is very good for healing your board, so you can make it last a lot longer. And then you get extra attack speed from Tiny but Deadly. Dark Alley Dealings is very good because you get Trench Cloak, which is a very powerful item. Final Ascension is just a good stat augment because it gives you just straight damage. Giant and Mighty is probably like one of the best stat augments because it gives you HP for your whole board, which is basically like a free giant spell for like everyone. Immovable Object is very strong for Immovable Object is very powerful because it gives everyone defense stats like magic resist and armor. New recruit can never go wrong with it. If you don't know what augment to pick and you see this augment, you could just click it because it gives you +1 slot to throw an extra unit and it gives you a champion duplicator. You can 2-star your 4 and 5 cost easier. Living Forge, same thing like Portable Forge, it's just you get an Ornn item, you can never go wrong with it. Radiant Refractor is pretty decent because you can make a Radiant item of your choice. And speaking of Radiant items, if you don't have really good items and you need an extra item, Radiant Relics is pretty decent for that because it allows you to get a super strong item that you can choose from. And if you just want to gamble with it, these are really powerful augments as well. Like if you don't have good items at all, you can do What the Forge, or if you're really powerful already, you can do a Call to Chaos. Even Golden Egg is okay if you're super, super strong. If you're not super strong, don't do Call to Chaos or Golden Egg. This is just more for like gambling if you like to have fun with it. And I keep saying Temple a lot, and this is the playstyle where around stage 2-1, you level to 4. Stage 2-3, always make intervals of 10 gold, so like 10, 20, 30. But if you have more than 14 gold, meaning like intervals of 4, like 14, 24, 34, you can pre-level to 5, meaning you put 8 out of 10 XP, because once you hit stage 2-4, you're already level 5, and you get a free level 5 shot, meaning that you have a possible chance to get a 4 cost unit. But if you didn't do this part, where if you have more than 14 gold, you pre-level to 5, just level to 5 at stage 2-4 instead. At stage 2-3, always make intervals of 10 gold again, like 20, 30 gold. At stage 3-2, hit level 6. At stage 3-7, hit level 7. At stage 4-2, hit level 8, and roll for your board. This is the formula you would play like 90% of the time in your games if you're playing for 4 cost carries. The reason why you do this formula is because you're going to be super healthy of HP, and you're going to have a pretty decent amount of money. You can do this even faster intervals, like for example, you could maybe hit 6 at 2-1, or hit 7 at like 3-5. It's just depending on how much gold you have and depending on your circumstances. But for the most part, if you're not comfortable doing it that early, just do it in these times and you should be fine. And stage 4-2 is very important because if you don't roll for your board at level 8 at stage 4-2, other people are going to take your units and you're not going to hit the units that you want to play. So therefore, hit level 8 right there and then to play your 4 cost carries. And in the augment order you always want to go by is almost every time is like item augment if you can, but this order is probably better where you get econ first, so you can hit level 8 even easier. Or if you can't get an econ augment, you can get an item augment. Second one should always be item, so you can get more power on the board. Or you could just get econ or even combat augment. And the third one should always be combat augment to finish off the board to make your board powerful. If you can't get a combat augment, an item augment is fine too. So that means you don't really need econ augment as your third one because you don't need money by then. Unless you want to hit level 9, go for it. But for the most part, I would say either take combat or item as your last one. If you want to play for example, 2 cost carries or even 3 cost carries, this is the way you would want to do it. So you play the basic tempo up until stage 3-2. you hit level 6, and then you roll for your board if you're playing 2 cost carry. But if you're playing 3 cost carry, then you hit level 7 whenever you can, and then roll for your board that way. The augment order you would go is item or combat, and then for the second one is combat or item. Basically, you do double item as well, but if you can do double combat, I wouldn't really say it's too powerful because you need at least one item augment to power up your main carry. And then for the third one, it could be literally anything that's not an econ augment. The reason why is because if you get econ augment as your third one, you might be kind of too weak by then. So having like, a third combat augment probably might be best. And then for our final gameplay style would be the slow. This is for like the one cost carries, like for example, playing Seraphine reroll or even Warwick reroll. So what you want to do is you don't want to level up at all. Just pick up all your core units. Like for example, like I said, if you're playing for mages, always pick up Seraphines and Sorakas. If you're playing Warwick, always pick up Warwick and Twitch. Like that. Don't pick up the 2 or 3 cost units because it's a waste of money. Just pick up the main 1 cost units you need. You can always buy more 2 cost units, but you can't always buy more 1 cost units because the higher level you are, the less chance you have to get the 1 cost units. So as we're picking up our core units at stage 3-1, which we hit level 5 right there, you want to roll down to at least 32 gold for your units. The reason why specifically 32 is because we can always make 50 gold in 2 turns. And then after you make 50 gold, you want to slow roll. Whenever you get your main carry 3-star, level to 8 as fast as you can, and then roll for your upgrades. And the augment order we want to go with is same thing like the last one, item or combat, second one, combat or item, and the third one, literally anything, as long as not econ, unless you need the econ. And that is it for my final video of set 12. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section down below. I'll try to answer to the best of my capabilities. Until then, I'll see you guys in set 13. Later.